everyone. I'm Kathryn Soley, and this is 1-800-CALL-KATHRYN. As always, I'm looking forward to taking your calls today. So let's just jump right in and let's hear from our first caller.
Hi, my name is Petra. I guess the brunt of the issue that I'm looking for guidance on is I'm currently 23, living at my parents after a misguided choice to go couch crash in New York for a few months. I'm the poorest I've ever been. I just got left by my partner of a few months, who is also the partner of my best friend, or one of my best friends. I'm very lost. I'm very stuck. I'm just quitting smoking.
Okay. So that call either got dropped, but it might have, but I got the sense that they just were like, oh, this sucks. This is like, they didn't want to keep talking about it. So I think that they hung up. But either way, I decided to take this call. So let's see what the cards have to say for Petra today. Oof, 23. People that are older than 23, can you leave us some comments about what that was like? 23, in some ways it's like a very fun, exciting time. Your early 20s, but I wouldn't go back. I would not go back to my 20s. Any point in my 20s is hard. It was like it's almost like a second puberty. So, okay, let's see what these cards have for Petra. Okay, so we have the Ace of Wands, the Ten of Wands, and the King of Swords. So all of these together, I'm just like, it's just, there's so much like energy here. And it feels like, you know, when I hear your call, I hear a lot of sadness, I hear a lot of heaviness, but the cards that show up, all three of these are very like energetic, like let's get this done. And so that may be the antidote to this feeling of like heaviness, sadness. There's this just, all three cards, it's so clear, like all of them are cards that I associate with like a lot of, you know, directness, like clarity, energy, movement. And so, wow. You say here too that you're feeling stuck. This is like the antidote for that. But how do we get here? How do we get to this place where things are moving? You know what I want to say too is, like I was saying, 20s are hard because, I mean, really, I say I wouldn't want to go back to my 20s. In another episode, we talked about the Saturn return. I think it was the second episode, and you haven't gone through, I feel like the Saturn return, you feel like an adult when you're in your 20s, but I think that when you go through the Saturn return, that's like the real threshold into like adulthood. There's just something that really happens. So, you know, early 20s, mid 20s, I know it's not the case for everyone, but for me, yeah, it was like a lot of like romantic, like ups and downs, being pulled this way, being pulled that way, having a lot of like crappy jobs, being really broke, not yet being like truly broke, having a lot of uncertainty about what life is going to look like. But at the same time, there should also be, you know, the nice part about being at that age is that you have a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of possibilities. And that's, you know, with the Ace of Wands, that's, when I think of the Ace of Wands to me, out of all the cards in the whole deck, is the most energetic card. It's the card that's like, there's so much energy behind it. There's so much potential, but we don't know where the potential is going to go. It hasn't like found its way yet. And so you're in this place where you're so young. I know that's really annoying when people older than you say that. And I'm not that much older, you know, I'm in my mid 30s, but you know, it's like, and you don't understand it until you're older, but like you're so young, you have your whole life ahead of you, and your life, I don't think that it's going to be as difficult as it is in this moment. So just remember that, like, this is one moment in many, many moments that you will have throughout your lifetime. So don't get fixated on this dark period, okay? There's a lot of potential, and it hasn't found its home yet. With the Ten of Wands, you know, there's also a lot of energy. You know, the wands are related to the element of fire, and I relate them to themes around the way that we move through the world, the way that we take action in the world, the way that we use our energy in the world, like these sort of themes. And so the Ten of Wands, it's like we've reached the end of some kind of cycle. So you may find yourself, you know, coming to the end of, that's another thing in your 20s, is that a lot of times, you know, friendships, ideas that you have about your identity, about who you are, places that you live, you know, all sorts of different things come to an end. Like you have a lot, you know, you shed a lot, or I think most people do shed a lot in their 20s, and you have to think about it as each shedding is you getting closer to yourself, even though it's painful in the moment, you know, to like, I do wonder what it feels like for like a snake. It must feel probably overall good to shed its skin, but there might be like a little bit of discomfort with it. And it's kind of like that, you know, you're shedding parts of yourself, identities, ideas that you have about yourself that are just not going to serve you going forward with your life. So with the Ten of Wands, you know, it can also be like if there are things in your life that you feel burdened by, complications, you know, this sounds like, even the relationship you're in, it sounds like unnecessarily complicated to me. Even just like dating the partner of your best friend or one of your best friends, like that sounds like just trouble. I don't know. I'm like too old to, you know, I'm not hip enough to understand that. But any sort of like things that feel unnecessarily complicated, burdensome, things, you know, this is the time to shed them. And then with the King of Swords, you know, when I see this card come up, so in our last episode, we talked about the King of Cups, which is a certain, the King of Cups is like more of an emotional maturity, an emotional stability. And the King of Swords is like that, but it's for our mind. So it's like our thinking is clear, we're thinking in a stable and mature way. So when our mind is out of balance, we create all these like stories and dramas and ups and downs and fears and anxieties and desires and projections and this and that, and it can make us crazy, and it can make us feel like stressed. It helps, it can make us lose touch with reality. Like, our minds are amazing tools. I'm very glad to have a logical thinking mind. And when it's out of balance, you know, the mind makes us delusional, and it makes us anxious and stressed and all sorts of things. So with the King of Swords, it's like, can you get your mind more in control here? Can you get it under control? Easier said than done, but if your mind is, you know, running amok and creating all these different stories about how shitty your life is, or how, you know, all these fears about, well, what's going to happen now? I wonder if you're having fears about what's going to happen with this good friend of yours. Like, is this going to affect your friendship with this person? With the King of Swords, you know, and I see that come up too, I like to suggest mindfulness or a meditation practice can be helpful to help get the mind more quiet, more stable. Meditation is basically the most subversive thing that you can do on the planet at this time, because it's true, like, subversiveness and rebellion. We're given these fake versions of, like, subversion and rebellion now, but they go along with, like, what's popular, and they just appear to be subversive. But really being subversive would be going against where everyone else, like, wants you to move towards, where the powers that be are pushing people towards, and we're being corralled collectively to have really short attention spans, to have no control over our emotions, no control over our minds, and to just be these, like, mindless automatons that will just do whatever we're told and think whatever we're told to think. And meditation trains us to be autonomous, to have mental, emotional stability, to think clearly, to not be so deeply impacted by our emotional states, to be able to see our life situations with greater clarity. I cannot recommend it enough. Nobody wants to do it. That's what makes it, like, subversive too, is no one wants to do it. It's viewed as, like, this really hard thing, but it's not supposed to really be easy, I guess. I had to turn one of these lights down because it's just right up in my face. Too bright. Let's see how that is. Since I started doing this, much better. Since I started doing this show, it's the first time I've had to figure out lights. I always just shoot my videos outside or in front of a window. Anyway, okay, so Petra, let's see. Let's pull an oracle card for some guidance with these themes going forward. Oh, I love this one. Gentleness. All right, Petra, are you really hard on yourself? Or in this instance, are you being hard on yourself? Are you beating yourself up? Are you telling yourself, oh, I'm so stupid, why did I do this? I'm not good enough in some way. If that's the case, you know, the gentleness card is just be gentle with yourself through this process. Be kind to yourself. Being cruel to yourself. If you have, like, an inner voice that picks on you, it's not going to help the situation. Maybe the voice has a point. Sometimes our inner critics, they can have point. Most of the time, I think they're just kind of nasty, and maybe we shouldn't listen to them. Sometimes they can have a point. But even if they do have a point, just fixating on, like, what we did wrong or, like, the mistake that we made, it's not going to help us going forward. So be gentle with yourself. So I guess overall, Petra, I would just say, you know, you have your whole life ahead of you. You're in this point in your life where you have all of this potential, all of this possibility. You don't know where it's going to go yet. Try to make your life as uncomplicated as you can, while still being able to mature and challenge yourself in ways. And if you can, start some sort of mindfulness practice or a meditation practice, especially when you're this young. I started meditating when I was 18 or so, but really more seriously when I was, well, it's hard to say. Meditation, you go through lots of different phases with it if you stick with it long term. And it's the best thing I've ever done for myself, and it affects every area of my life very, very positive ways, even my physical health, my emotional health. And be gentle with yourself. Even with the meditation, be gentle with yourself. Sometimes people get into meditation and they're like really like aggressive, like towards themselves with the meditation. So make sure you're even gentle with that. So, all right, Petra. You're gonna be okay. I try not to say things like that to people, but I feel compelled to say that I think you're gonna be okay. Just stick with this. Don't give up hope. Don't, get bogged down. These are all learning experiences if you engage with them in that way, and in a couple of years you're gonna look back and potentially even be grateful for all of the difficulties that you've been going through. And even, just so you know, the statistic years ago, like I think in 2016 or 2017, the statistic was like 50% of millennials were living at home with their parents, something like that. And I imagine that the number is higher now. So living at home, it's not a sign of failure. You're not like the only one doing it. It's the world's, it's kind of crazy right now. So, all right, Petra, I wish you well. Yeah, 20s, man. 23. Again, I enjoyed that time of my life, just to a large extent, but I'm really glad I'm not there anymore. Maybe I'm saying that too much. Enjoy it while you can, because there's so many things like that I miss about my 20s now. So, okay, let's hear from our next caller.
Hi, Kathryn. This is Jamie, and my question is about death and grief. I've been a death doula for 13 years, and it's been deeply fulfilling. However, as I get older and some of my loved ones have received a serious health diagnosis and my parents are aging, I'm starting to feel my relationship with death changing. I'm experiencing more fear and resistance, which I know intellectually are totally normal. But I'm wondering what insight the cards might have about how to tend to this new relationship with death and grief that's currently emerging for me and others in a similar situation. Thank you for this and for all the beautiful work you do.
Okay, Jamie. So, for those of you not familiar, Jamie says that they're a death doula, and a death doula is just someone that helps. I guess there's probably a variation of definitions of what that means for people, but it's basically just someone that helps people through the passage of their own dying, and or helps the grieving family or loved ones left behind. It's something that's really, I think, needed in the world at this time. People do not think about death. If you guys are familiar with my work outside of the show, like, death is a big thing that I focus on. I have a class. I have 2 classes out on my Patreon about the Book of the Dead, which is an area of study that I'm very, very passionate about. And yeah, it's one thing when you're holding that space for other people. It's another when you have to then doula yourself through that. You think you're ready for it. I remember when my dog died a few years ago, and I had been thinking about his death, not in like a morbid way, but just like, oh yeah, he's getting older, like he's probably gonna die in the next, couple of years. Like I had been aware of this for a long time, and I'd gone through different processes of sort of trying to help prepare myself for the grief and for his loss. But when it actually came the time of his death, it was just like whoa, really brought up so much stuff, feelings I wasn't expecting, like guilt, and so I can't imagine, obviously our pets are very deeply important to us, but when it's your parents or a sibling or a spouse or a child, it's like we can't really know what that's going to feel like until we get there. So let's see what we have for you, Jamie. All right, so we have all swords cards, and as I've said in other episodes, I'm always interested in how the cards arrange themselves, and so having them all be swords cards is interesting. The swords are related to the way that we think. So we talked about that in the last reading. We had the King of Swords come up. The way we think, a little bit the way we communicate, but it has to do with our minds. And so we have the 5, the 8, and the Page, all of Swords. So, with the Page of Swords, it indicates that you're on a new exploration around the way that you're thinking about these things. So your experience, you've been a death doula for 13 years. Thank you for your service in that, by the way. Maybe it's an easy job for you in a certain way. Like if you're made to do that work, it's very rewarding and in a way maybe easy. But I'm sure in other ways it's not easy. You're around a lot of grief and a lot of fear, but also a lot of beauty, like immense beauty. But 13 years, it's a long time, and at the same time, it's not that long, Imagine if you stay with this work. I don't know how old you are now, but imagine if you stay working as a death doula or in this sphere of work, what you're going to be like when you're in your 70s doing this work, right? How much you'll have learned, how much experiences you'll have. You'll have gone through the death of your parents by that point. You'll have gone through holding lots of people through that threshold. So there's always like these moments where you get to learn more. You get to expand your knowledge. That's part of the reason why I like doing tarot so much is, I've been reading for, how old am I? I've been reading for like 15 years, about 10 years reading for other people. And I'm always learning more. I'm always like, the cards reveal new aspects of themselves to me all the time. I'm learning new kind of ways to communicate the ideas that I see to people. There's always more to study, always more experience to be had, always more to learn. And so you're just in like a new kind of threshold, a new ring on the spiral, and that's a beautiful thing, because a lot of people go through life and they basically just stay stagnant as they were like as a teenager. Like many people kind of just don't do much self-reflection, don't do much learning or development throughout their lives. And so it seems like it's so basic, but if you're someone who is growing and reflecting and learning, anyone listening to this, like, congratulations, give yourself a pat on the back, because in the world at this time, that sort of thing is not really encouraged or supported. So you are, in this new kind of layer of understanding how to think about this realm of the death work that you're doing. With the 5 of Swords and the 8 of Swords, both of these cards, with the 8 of Swords, they're both kind of telling me a similar story. With the 8 of Swords, when I see this card come up, one of the things that comes up for me is a feeling of stuck, like a feeling of trappedness or uncertainty. And so there may be a part of you in this experience where you're not sure that you're going to be able to figure this out, that you're not sure if you're going to have the answers to this. You're not sure if you're going to make it through this. And as I say that, I'm like, how do you feel when you hear me say that? Is that true? Because I get a sense that there's a part of you that also knows, yeah, I know that this is going to be hard, but I can do this. And I know that this is going to be, a big learning experience for me, and I'm going to be able to open and grow and evolve and mature in amazing ways. It may come through difficult lessons, but it's going to really polish me. And so if there's a part of you that gets stuck, or you feel like you're stuck, just remember that it's just the mind. It's the mind that thinks that it's stuck, but it's not. You're not actually stuck, And then with the 5 of Swords, when I see this card show up, I think about, in this reading, I'm hesitating because it's almost like too close to the last reading. Sometimes that happens. The readings, all the time it happens where certain themes show up, again and again, if I'm giving multiple readings in one day. But there's this, are you being a little too hard on yourself through this? Are you kind of beating yourself up about how you're showing up for this? Is there a voice inside that says, like, come on, Jamie, like, you've done this for 13 years. Like, why am I not there? Why am I not getting this? Like, shouldn't I know this by now? I thought I knew this. I thought I knew better. Again, if that's happening, because we're in the Swords here, this is in the mind. These are thoughts that are existing in the mind. They're not necessarily based in reality. And so try not to beat yourself up. Try to remember that you're starting a new layer of the spiral, and you're learning as you go. So don't be so hard on yourself. All right, Jamie, let's pull an oracle card here for some guidance with these themes going forward. No sis. So when I see this card in relationship to the rest of the reading, it just feels like there's a part of you that knows. And if you can, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I'm speaking directly to you right now, Jamie, but maybe also other people watching will hear this too. but there's a part of us that knows, and it goes beyond the mind. So we have all of this mind stuff going on with all of these swords cards, all of this thinking, but beyond the thinking, or underneath the thinking, or above the thinking, depending on how you want to phrase it, there's a part of us that knows. And this part that knows may even go beyond the intuition, you could say. And so if you can lean into that part to the best of your abilities, I think having access to that part of ourselves is a skill that we develop over time if we're putting our attention there. Again, it's another one of those things. The vast majority of people put zero effort into connecting with this part of themselves. They put their trust and their faith in things that are outside of themselves, and give their power away, and never get to have that experience of like knowing. So if you're doing death work, you've seen some things, and you likely have had experiences of that knowing, you know. So lean into that. If you can remember back to experiences where you've been working with the dying, or with people in grief, and you get those moments where it's like divine, where you see the sacredness of it. If you can lean into that, connect in with that, let that be your guide through this new leg of your learning within this work. Okay, Jamie, that's what I have for you. Again, thank you for your service. People don't usually say that to death doulas, but it is a great service. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what's a death doula? Like, I want to do that. Look into it. Or just, read some books about death and dying. I think everyone can really benefit from that. Again, we live in a culture in a world where nobody thinks they're going to die. Nobody thinks, that that's coming, and no one's prepared. No one knows what that looks like, and it's very sad, I think, that we don't have that connection anymore. But yeah, there needs to be more people doing that kind of work. So if you feel called to do that, look into it. Okay, so let's take one more call today.
Hi, Kathryn. This is Brittany. I'm calling because I feel really stuck in my field of work. I've been doing it for 5 years, going on 6, and it's very exhausting, time-consuming, and I'm not even especially good at it despite having good credentials. I feel like my greatest strengths don't really get used in this job, while my weaknesses are the worst possible weaknesses for this field. Like, it would be better for me to be missing a whole hemisphere of my brain than to have the particular weaknesses that I have. I feel like I could grind really hard to offset my weaknesses, but even then, I would be mediocre at best. And I'm currently in the best possible work situation for a teacher that I've ever been in, but I still feel really bummed about going back for another year at the end of the summer. Plus, it feels really unwise to think about leaving a really well-paid job or even pivoting when the world feels very precarious. What should I do? Thanks, Kathryn.
Okay, so Brittany's feeling stuck in her field. Not, that was making me laugh when you said you're not even especially good at it. Is that really true, do you think? Or are you just being hard on yourself? Sometimes it's hard to gauge, Sometimes people are just hard on themselves, but maybe you're not that good at it, I don't know. But, yeah, let's shuffle these cards and see what we have for you here. so we have the Two of Swords, the Six of Pentacles, and the Eight of Wands. So the Two of Swords, when I see that card come up in a reading, one of the things that I usually think about is when we're stuck between two choices. So we have swords, we just talked a lot about swords in the last reading. And so if you guys were listening, you will know that the swords have to do with our minds, with the way that we think. And so when I see the Two of Wands show up, I'm often associating it with our minds where we're thinking we have different paths that we're wanting to take, different kind of possibilities in our minds of ways that we want to go. And I mean, it sounds like that's what you're going through, right? With the Six of Pentacles, I'm thinking about an exchange of energy. Is one of the main things that I think about with this. So if you're a teacher, you're giving a lot, right? And so I wonder what the issue is that you say that you're not particularly good at, that your greatest strengths don't get used while your weaknesses are the worst possible weaknesses for this field. It's why is your name Brittany? Yeah, Brittany, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this job? It just sounds like you don't like it. And it's exhausting, it's time consuming. You say you're not very good at it. So why are you staying there? What's, you're saying it's, I guess you said that you feel like it's unwise to think about leaving a well-paid job. I get that, but life is short. How do you feel when you think about doing this job for, I don't know how old you are. You sound kind of young, my guess is you're younger. What do you think when 10 years from now, do you want to still be at this job? Is this what you want to be doing? 5 years from now? If that elicits like a very strong feeling of, no, I don't want to be doing this, then maybe you should start, considering different possibilities, because life is short. You don't even know if you have 5 years. The last reading was about the death tool. I mean, we never know what's going to happen, right? We never know where life's going to take us. So, with that Six of Pentacles, sorry, I went off on a little tangent here, but, I was wondering, does part of this work, does it have to do with how much you're giving? Do you feel like you said, it's exhausting? Is it because you're giving so much? I've had friends that have been teachers and were similarly exhausted from it. Actually, all my friends that have been teachers are no longer teachers because of that aspect of how much you have to give out, and the what you get back is not equal to that. I know that there are teachers that are meant to be teachers. This is what their life is, guided them to. This is what they're supposed to be doing. And so it doesn't feel exhausting to them. They're giving and giving and giving, and they're getting so much back because they know that they're, doing what they're meant to be doing. With the Eight of Wands, in the Thoth deck, the Aleister Crowley deck, he calls this card Swiftness. And so I often associate this card with fast movement, making a quick decision. How do you feel when you hear me say that about making a quick decision? Is this something that you're ready to leave this job now? What do you think? If not, that's okay too. Sometimes the other side of this card is when we're acting too impulsively. So you have to kind of think about, am I moving? Do I need to make a decision now? Life is short, I got to make the decision now. Or am I at risk of impulsively making a decision quickly because I'm uncomfortable right now. You know, is it better to have something lined up for you to do before you leave this job? Or I guess you said that you have summer break, so maybe you have some time to think about this. So, yeah. Okay, Brittany, let's pull an oracle card here for some guidance with these themes going forward. Imagination. So I don't know what grade you're teaching. If you're teaching younger kids, you probably talk about imagination or think about it. But what do you, can you use your imagination around this scenario, around this topic? What can you imagine is possible for you going forward? What kind of a life can you imagine for yourself? Again, do you see yourself being a teacher 5 years from now? Do you see yourself in this job that you're in 5 years from now? Do you want that? If not, then what sort of life do you imagine for yourself? What sort of work do you want to be doing? Is there a way to bring your gifts? You know, you say your strengths are not used in this job. Would it be possible to find a different teaching job where those weaknesses are not so much of a weakness and your strengths you're more able to use? Yeah, what can you imagine for yourself here? All right, Brittany, that's what I have for you. I wish you luck on this endeavor. It's not easy having a job that you don't like, and that's hard. And maybe you actually didn't say that you didn't like it. You just said it was, you're not particular. I'm sorry, I know I keep bringing that up, but it's just funny to me. But it's exhausting. You feel stuck, time consuming. I don't know. All right, Brittany. It's not hard having a job that, whether you like your job or not, it's not hard. It's not easy having a job that's difficult. All right, so to close this out, let's pull a card of the day, something for us all to keep in mind today going forward. Five of Swords. We had this come up already today in one of our readings. Oops. So where in your life are you struggling unnecessarily? Where are you creating problems where there need not be problems? What are you fighting against that you don't need to be fighting against? Are you creating enemies in your mind that aren't actually there? The image that I get in my mind with this one is like having a sword and you're like fighting an enemy that's not there. You're trying to duel or fence with an enemy that's not even there, that you've created just in your mind. And this enemy could be external. It could be, you know, the political group you don't like, the political leader you don't like, the neighbor, the father, the mother, the spouse, ex-spouse, whatever. Or it could be internal. It could be, you know, your own beating up on yourself. It could be being angry at yourself, being angry at certain qualities that you have, certain patterns, certain behaviors that you don't like. So can we soften that a little bit today? All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in to 1-800-CALL-Kathryn. I've really been enjoying doing this show, and if you enjoy it, please share with people that you think might like it. Please let people know about it, share it on social media, follow me on social media. I'm mostly on Instagram. I have a page for this show, 1-800-CALL-Kathryn, but then the main page that I use is called Persephone's Path, and I'll link those below. I'm also on Facebook, but Facebook just automatically posts my stuff to Instagram, so you can follow me there. Yeah. And keep calling in. Keep calling in. I'm always going to need people calling in. I'm going through my calls. They're not really in order of when people called. So if you called, a couple of weeks ago, you might get your answer a couple weeks from now. I'm trying to keep them as timely as I can, but I try to arrange the shows with some more light questions, some heavier ones, and try to find a balance there. So I've had mostly heavy questions coming in, which makes sense. It's a hard time right now. So keep the hard questions, keep the heavy questions, keep the light ones, keep the fun ones, keep, as many questions coming in as you can. And 641-632-2727. Spread the word, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I don't know, again, how much that helps. I think it helps a lot. So if you have a YouTube channel, please, or a YouTube account, please subscribe. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye.